To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.
Right, children. Now we are going to start the second chapter of the lesson. Do you remember what we learned in the first chapter, children? We learned about different types of rocks and minerals, and now we know that rocks and minerals are two different things. Okay? Right. In this chapter, we are going to learn about rock weathering. So, we are going to learn there are different ways that rock weathering takes place. Now, do you remember even earlier lessons we have discussed about this rock weathering topic? I briefly explained you all about rock weathering topic in the soil lesson. Okay? Right. We'll say this. When the earth is drilled, at one point, you will find that it is difficult to drill it further because of a rock. It is hard. It is the bedrock. Now, do you remember in the soil lesson, we learned something called soil profile, right? When we learn about soil profile, we learn that when we consider a vertical section of soil, right, when we consider the vertical section of soil, there are three layers, right? We learn that there are three layers. The topmost layer is known as topsoil, and the middle layer is known as subsoil, and the last or bottom layer is known as bedrock. Right, children? Topsoil, subsoil, and bedrock. Now, during that lesson, I explained you all that the subsoil layer, bedrock layer, is made up of completely hard rocks. Right? Subsoil layer is a mixture of soil and rocks. Pieces of rocks also there. So there I explained that subsoil layer is formed by breaking down of this bedrock and soil is formed. Right? That is why subsoil has both pieces of rocks and soil there. Soil is made by breaking down of rock for a long period of time. Right, children? And we learned that topsoil is formed due to breaking down of subsoil layer further. Okay, children? Which means soil is formed because of breaking down of rocks. This breaking down of rocks and formation of soil, this whole process is known as weathering of rocks. Right, so under this chapter, we are going to learn how weathering of rocks take place in different ways. Okay? Right. So, it is the bedrock. Therefore, we can imagine that this rock has participated in creating soil, as I explained y'all here. Due to many reasons, the rock on earth break into pieces and form soil. This process is known as rock weathering or weathering of rocks. So what is weathering of rocks? Due to many reasons, the rocks on earth break into pieces and form soil. This process is known as rock weathering. Right, children? Rock weathering occurs in three ways. We are going to learn about them separately. The first method is physical weathering. Physical weathering, another name is also given, mechanical weathering. Right? Physical or mechanical weathering. Mechanical weathering. Right, children? Number 2, chemical weathering. Chemical weathering. Number 3, biological weathering. Biological weathering. Right. Physical or mechanical weathering takes place because of physical factors present in the environment, like temperature, water, wind, likewise. Right? Chemical weathering, so it's in the name. Chemical weathering takes place because of chemical substances, right? So biological weathering, because of biological factors. What are the biological factors? Biological factors means because of living beings, right? Plants, animals, and microorganisms. Because of plants, animals, and microorganisms, also rock breakdown and soil is formed. That is known as biological weathering. We will learn about these three methods separately now, okay? So the first method, first way of weathering or breaking down of rocks and formation of soil is physical or mechanical weathering. So I already explained y'all, physical weathering takes place because of physical factors or environmental factors such as temperature, water or rain, and also because of the wind, okay? Right. Physical weathering is the process of breaking rocks into small pieces due to physical factors like heat, wind, and flowing water. Right, children? So physical weathering occurs in many ways. Now the first factor is heat. We will consider that first. During the daytime, rocks get heated because of the heat of the sunlight. And during the night time, they get cold. Now in the temperature lesson, we learn what happens to objects because of heating and cooling. Right? When heat is absorbed by objects, what happens, children? They get expanded. Their volume increases. Right, children? And because of cooling down process, what happens? The surfaces or the objects get contracted or the volume reduces. The same thing can take place in the rock surfaces as well. So when you consider huge rocks, right? Let's say if there's a huge rock, right? Because of the sun's heat, the outer surface gets expanded. Now, when you consider expansion of the entire rock, you all can see when the rock gets heated up, the outer part gets heated up more than that of the inner part. Therefore, outer part absorbs more heat, it gets heated up more, it expands more, which means this expansion throughout the rock is not equal. Right? Outer part gets expanded more than that of the inner part. So during the daytime, the rock surface area absorbs heat and it gets expanded. During the night time, what happens? There's no sunlight, therefore the environment cools down and this rock releases its heat and because of that it contracts. Right? So even this contraction also does not take place in the same manner inside and outside the rock. Right? So these changes take place faster in the outermost area, outermost layers of the rocks than that of the inner layers. Okay, children? So then what happens with time? Because of this expansion and contraction within a long period of time, right? This rock, the outer part of the rock removes as a layer. Sometimes when you go out, you might see in huge rocks, you might have seen that certain parts are removed as a huge layer. This is because of this expansion and contraction process. Okay, children? So during the daytime, rocks get heated because of the heat of the sunlight and during the night time, they get cooled. Right? Also, sudden rays will cool down these heated rocks, not only during the night time. Let's say that during the daytime, when the environmental temperature is very high, what happens? The rock surfaces also gets heated up and expand. So if all of a sudden, if it rains, what happens? Right? Instantly, the rock surface cools down. This will make the surface contract or the volume decrease. Okay? Rocks break into pieces because of this heating and cooling process. Right? Rocks break into pieces because of this heating and cooling process. So, breaking down of rocks is known as rock weathering. So, this is how rock weathering takes place because of heat. Right, children? So, we are going to do this activity to observe this heating and cooling process and due to that how rock weathering takes place. Okay? So, this activity observing how rocks break into pieces because of the heating and cooling process. We need a marble, a glass marble, and we need pair of crucible tongs, and we need a spirit lamp and a vessel of water, right? We will write, we need a marble, a glass marble, a pair of crucible tongs, a spirit lamp, and a vessel of water. We need a glass marble, a pair of crucible tongs, a spirit lamp, and a vessel of water. Let's see how to do the activity. Method. Use the crucible tongs and heat the glass marble. You have to hold the glass marble with crucible tongs and you have to heat it up. Okay? When it gets heated, put it into the water basin. Right? And observe. Take out the marble and check it. You have to leave it in the water basin for a few minutes and then you have to take it out and observe what has happened to the surface. Let's do this activity now. Right, children? In this activity, we are going to observe how weathering of rocks take place due to heating and cooling. So now you all know weathering of rocks means breaking down of rocks and formation of soil. Okay? This can happen because of physical factors like temperature. Okay? Right. Here I have 3 marbles. I'm going to use one of these marbles. Now I'm going to consider this marble as our rock. Okay? Right. So observe the surface of the marble very carefully. Right? All 3 marbles, they have a very smooth surfaces. Right? And they are not damaged. Okay, children? They are not damaged. There are no cracks on the surface. Okay? Right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to light the spirit lamp and I'm going to heat one of these marbles. Right. Okay. Here you all can see I have a beaker with water. This is cold water, right? And after heating this marble, instantly I am going to put it into this water beaker. Right. So you all know when we heat something, what happens, children? When you heat something, the object absorbs heat and the volume and size of the objects increase. This is known as expansion. Okay. So when we heat this marble, that also expands. Okay. So I have heated this enough. I am going to put this marble into this beaker. Right, children? So earlier I heated the marble and then instantly I put it into this water beaker. Let's see what has happened. Observe carefully what has happened to the surface of this marble. Right? Earlier, all 3 marbles had the same type of surface. I will place another marble here. Now, observe the difference of the surfaces. You all can clearly see the surface and this marble, the marble that we heated up is cracked. Okay? So, it's not like before. So, what happens, children? You did not observe these cracks while I was heating. While I was heating, this marble looked the same as before, right? So these cracks appeared only after we put this heated marble into water. What is the reason, children? So as I explained you all before, when you heat something, the objects expand, volume increases, the size increases. And when you instantly cool down something, when we cool down the heated object, what happens, children? In the same way, because of releasing heat, what happens to the object, children? The volume and the size reduces. This is known as contraction. Okay, so if we consider this marble as the rock, so the rocks are made by combining different types of minerals, right? So because of the environmental high temperature, the rocks get heated up. Then what happens, children? Minerals also get heated up, but this heating up and cooling down process does not take place in the same way. So during the daytime, because of the sun's heat, rocks get heated up. During the night time, due to release of heat, they cool down. And also because of rain also, these rocks cool down. So when they heat in and cool in, what happens, children? Because of expansion and contraction, and at the same time, this expansion and contraction of the minerals won't take place at the same rate, same level, these type of cracks appear. Okay, children? And thereby, when these cracks appear for a long period of time, at one point, these rocks break down into pieces and weathering of rocks take place. Right, children? So you all observed that activity very carefully, and I hope you understood what happened there, right? So the small glass marble we considered as our rock, and we heated it up, then instantly we dropped it into a beak of water. Then what happened, children, when we observed the surface of the glass marble, we could clearly see it is cracked. Okay, so why does that happen, children? When we heat the glass marble, the surface expands, right? And when we cool it down using water, when we drop it to cold water, what happens? Because of contraction, the cracks appear. Right, children? The same way, weathering of rocks also take place because of heating and cooling process. Okay, children? We will write the observations. We'll write the observation. The glass marble. Here what we did was, we heated the glass marble, and when it gets heated, put it to a water basin. We put it to a water basin, and then afterwards we observe what has happened to the glass marble. So what was our observation? The glass marble has been cracked. The glass marble has been cracked. Right, children? So what is the conclusion? So if we consider this glass marble as our rock weathering takes place due to heating and cooling, okay? Due to heating and cooling, weathering. Weathering of rocks means breaking down of rocks, okay? Weathering of rocks takes place. Right, children? Observation was the glass marble has been cracked. Conclusion, due to heating and cooling, weathering of rocks takes place, okay? Right. So you will see that the marble has been cracked. Because of heating and cooling, minerals in rocks get expanded and contracted. These expansions and contractions do not happen to the same extent. Even earlier I explained you all, if it's a huge rock, the surface area gets heated up faster than the inner areas, inner layers, okay? Therefore, the pieces in the rock get loosened and removed. It starts from outside. First outside pieces get removed, and then the inner parts exposed to outside again, right? Okay. So that is how, because of heat, weathering of rocks takes place. Right, children? Next one. When water flows through rocks, they get weathers. How does this happen, children? Okay. Because of this, the rough edges of stones in flowing water streams are softened and shaped. You must have seen the stones present in the river bottoms. What is the shape of those stones, children? They are nicely round and smoothed, right? They don't have rough edges. If you observe carefully, River stones, they don't have rough edges. They are nicely shaped into round and the surface is also very smooth. Okay, children, why does this happen? When water flows over them, because of the speed of the water, what happens, children? These tiny rocks get contacted with each other. Right? When they get contacted with each other over a long period of time, what happens? These rough edges of these stones, they will break down, and with time what happens? The surfaces become smooth and round. That is why they don't have rough edges. Okay, they are always nicely rounded and smoothed. That is because of the flow of water. Right, children? Flow of water. These small pieces are, number one, the small pieces are washed away. And number two, because of contact with each other, they nicely get smoothed. Okay, children. So when water flows through rocks, they get weathered. They break down. Because of this, the rough edges of stones in flowing water streams are softened and shaped. So if this happens over a long period of time, what will happen to the size of the stones? The size of the stones will gradually decrease because this weathering, this breaking down of rocks because of water happens or keeps on happening over a long time. What will happen to the size of the stones? The size of the stones will reduce. They will break down over time and finally they will turn into soil. Right, children? Okay. So that is because of water, how weathering of rocks take place. Okay, there's another one. Also, when sand which flows with wind hits the rocks, they get weathered. Because of wind also weathering of rocks take place, children. Okay. So, when sand which flows with wind, now you must have heard of sandstorms. Most of the time sandstorms occur in desert areas. Right? In desert areas, when sandstorms occur, sandstorms with wind flows with sand particles. Okay, children? So then what happens? Let's say that if there are huge rocks, so most of the time these type of huge rocks present in desert areas, their surface is also very smooth because they're frequently exposed to sandstorms, right? When sandstorms, like the wind with sand particles, when they flow over these rocks, what happens? This wind carries tiny sand particles. Because of the speed of these sand particles, what happens, children? It can brush the surface away over a long period of time. Right? Because of this contact of sand particles with the surface, tiny parts of the surface, they break down. Right? When this happens over a long time, even these surfaces become a little smoother. Right? Also, when sand which flows with wind hits the rocks, they get weathered, they break down, but this takes a long period of time. Okay, children, so we are talking about the weathering of rocks due to heat, due to water, due to wind. Remember, all these processes take a long period of time to happen. It will not happen in a day or two. Right, children? So because of water, weathering of rocks take place. Because of heat, weathering of rocks takes place. Because of wind also, weathering of rocks take place. Now here, this is another method because of water, how weathering of rocks take place. Okay? There might be water inside the cavities of rocks. You must have seen some rocks, they have cavities or some cracks like this. Right? In countries where the atmospheric temperature is less than the freezing point of 0 degrees Celsius. What type of countries are they? You know that there are countries called temperate countries. Right? These countries, they have 4 seasons. Right, children? So here, during the winter season, temperature is very low, even below the freezing point. Right? When the water's temperature is 0 or below, 0 degrees Celsius or below, what happens to water? Water turns into ice. Okay, children, in countries where the atmospheric temperature is less than the freezing point of 0 degrees Celsius, this water turns into ice. Right? Just imagine if there's a cavity like this and during rainy season, if this cavity gets filled with water, right? If a certain amount of water is trapped in this cavity, during the winter season, what will happen, children? It will freeze and turns into ice. Now a nice thing happens, children. Water has this specific quality. When the water freezes, when the water turns into ice, its volume increases, its size increases. You can easily observe this even at home. You can take a plastic cup, right? You can take a plastic cup, even you can take the ice tray, right? So you have to completely fill the ice tray with water up to the top. And then you place it in the freezer part and observe what happens. So you will realize, let's consider if this is your ice tray. If this is your ice tray, you will realize now here to observe this one, you have to fill the water up to the top, right? When you fill the water up to the top like this, right, you will realize, so when you fill water to the top of the ice tray and when you freeze it, you will realize when the ice is formed, ice layer will be above the layer of this, above the top level of this ice tray. It will get a little bulgier. Right, what is the reason, children? There's this specific quality of water. When water freezes, its volume slightly increases. Right, children, this is a special property of water. Right, the same thing happens here. Just imagine if there's a tiny crack, right? So when water is trapped inside this crack, so and during the winter season, when this water freezes, what happens? As I told you, now only in this volume water is filled. Then what happens? When water freezes and when it turns into ice, its volume increases. When the volume or the size of this ice increases, what happens? Now here, this amount of water does not have enough space inside the small crack. It needs more space, therefore it gives a little pressure towards the walls of this crack. Therefore, this crack gets a little wider, move apart from each other, which means the size of the crack increases. Thereby, this little bit of ice gets enough space for it to stay inside. Right? Here then, what happens? Now in the first one, it's given temperature is higher than the freezing point of water, which means water stays as liquid water. Right? So during the, let's consider winter season, temperature is lower than the freezing point, which means during that time, because of the pressure given to the wall on these cracks, the size of the crack increases, thereby water occupies more space to stay as ice. Right? So if you consider certain amount of water, when it turns into ice, its size, the volume increases. Right? Because the volume increases, because of this increase of the volume, that increased amount of volume gives a little pressure towards the sides of the crack. So the size of the crack increases. Then again, what happens when during the summer, right? Now this crack has more space, therefore during the next summer, right? Temperature is higher than the freezing. When the another like low, high temperature environment or the season comes, now there's more space for more amount of water because the crack size is bigger now. Right? So more water gets filled here. So during the next winter season, next cold season, what happens, children? This more amount of water gets frozen. So when this more amount of water gets frozen or turns into ice, what happens? Again, its volume increases. Again, during that season, the cold season, it creates pressure on the walls of the crack. The crack moves away from each other. Pieces of stones move away, rocks move away from each other, making the crack larger. So when this happens again and again and again over a long period of time, what happens, children? This crack gets bigger and bigger. At one point, it will completely break the rock. Right, children, here temperature is lower. Again, temperature is lower than the freezing point of water. So to understand this better, you can simply consider this is the summer season, winter season. Summer season, water does not turn into ice. It stays as water. You can simply consider, just as an example, this is the summer season, winter season. Summer season, winter season likewise. Right, children? So in this way, you can understand this better. So just remember that when water turns into ice, its size increases. So as I told you all before here, you can simply experiment it at home as well, right? You can experience it at home as well, even as I explained you all here. Okay, children. So I hope you understood very well how physical weathering or mechanical weathering takes place because of different factors like heat, water and wind. Okay, children, we'll move on to the next. Now we are going to learn about chemical weathering, how breaking down of rock takes place because of chemical substances present in the environment. Okay, in order to understand this one, we are going to do a small activity. Test whether acids cause rock weathering. Okay, so to do this activity, we need a piece of limestone. We need some vinegar. Vinegar contains acids. Okay, vinegar contains an acid called acetic acid. And we need a glass container. We are going to use a test tube in the lab. Okay, let's write. A piece of limestone. Now, limestone is a type of rock contains calcium, right? Vinegar, the glass container. We are going to use a test tube in the lab, okay? So, how to do this activity? Fill the glass container with vinegar and then put the piece of limestone into that container. And you need to observe what happens to the piece of limestone. Okay, let's do this activity now. Okay, children, we are going to understand about chemical rock weathering in this activity, right? So what is rock weathering, children? Rock weathering means rock break down into small pieces and formation of soil. Okay, this can happen in many ways due to chemical substances. So specifically because of acids also, chemical weathering takes place. So to do this activity, here I am going to use a piece of limestone, right? And here I have some water and here I have vinegar. Vinegar is an acid called acetic acid is present in vinegar, right? So as the acid, we are going to use vinegar now. Now, I am going to use 2 test tubes and I am going to pour equal amounts of water to one, vinegar to the other one, right? Right, okay. Now here I have pieces of limestone. Now here limestone contains calcium. Okay, now here this is a piece of coral. Coral also contains calcium. Okay, now this I have taken from the piece of this coral. Okay, right. So I'm going to put one of these pieces to water. Check what happens. And then I'm going to put another piece of limestone to the vinegar vessel. Right, observe carefully the difference, children. You can't see any difference, any activity or any reaction takes place in this limestone which is present in this test tube with water. So if you observe very carefully, you will realize that in the second test tube with vinegar, a lot of gas bubbles are evolving. So I will put another piece of limestone. Check the moment I put, you will realize a lot of gas bubbles evolve. Okay? Right, observe carefully. Right. You can see a lot of gas bubbles are emitting from this second setup. but there's no difference in the first setup. Right, children. So you observe the difference. So here what happens, children? There are many chemicals present in the environment. Like sometimes rain contains acids, and this type of rain is known as acid rains. Okay, children? Just imagine if structures made by limestone, like different statues are there. Okay, if structures made by limestone or just the limestone present in the environment, if they get exposed to these acid rains continuously for a long period of time, what will happen, children? So the limestones react with acids, and thereby limestones break into small pieces. Okay, limestones gradually dissolve and break into small pieces, and thereby soil will form. Okay, but this will not happen with normal water, right? So if the rain does not contain acid, or if rain is not acidic, this reaction will not take place. Right, children? So this is how, due to acids, weathering of rocks take place. Right, children? So you all observed what happened. What did we do in the activity? We put a small piece of limestone into vinegar. Vinegar contains an acid called acetic acid. What happened, children? What did you observe? You observed air bubbles, and at the same time you saw that small piece of limestone dissolves in the vinegar solution. Okay, children? So what is the conclusion? Why does that happen, children? Vinegar contains, as I explained you all, vinegar contains an acid, acetic acid. So limestone reacts with this acid, children. Right? So in the same way, now limestone is a type of rock. In the same way, the rocks can dissolve, rocks can break down because of acids present in the environment. Okay? Right. We will write this. The piece of limestone in vinegar dissolves, emitting gas bubbles. Gas is also released, emitting gas bubbles. The piece of limestone in vinegar dissolves, emitting gas bubbles. This was the observation. Conclusion, what happens here? The limestone reacts with acids, right? Limestone reacts with the acid present in vinegar. Therefore, weathering of rocks takes place due to acids. Right, children? Limestone reacts with the acid present in vinegar. Therefore, weathering of rocks take place due to acids. Okay? This is the same thing. You will see that the piece of limestone in the container with vinegar dissolves, emitting air bubbles. Right? The conclusion is limestone got weathered because of acids. Limestone, when it reacts, what happens, children? Its size decreases. Okay? It gets weathered. Okay? The conclusion is limestone got weathered because of acids. So same type of thing can take place in the environment too. So chemical weathering is the transformation of rocks into other forms by reacting with water, acids and oxygen. Right? Chemical weathering is the transformation of rocks into other forms by reacting with water, acids and oxygen. Right, children? So here, when you consider Most of the time, this weathering of rocks due to chemical substances is taken place because of acid rains. What are acid rains, children? We'll go through this. When carbon dioxide dissolves in water, it becomes acidic. You all know that carbon dioxide is a type of gas present in the atmosphere. So when carbon dioxide dissolves in rainwater, what happens? Rainwater becomes slightly acidic, right? It becomes acidic but very slightly. Okay, when carbon dioxide dissolves in rainwater, the acid produced in rainwater is not very harmful. It is very slightly acidic. Okay, right. At present, the percentage of sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere has increased. Now, sulfur dioxide is released when we burn different fossil fuels, and also in some factories also sulfur dioxide is released as a gas. Now what happens, children? When sulfur dioxide dissolves in rainwater, it forms a certain form of sulfuric acid. Now sulfuric, this acid forms is very acidic. Okay, not like now here when you consider carbon dioxide dissolves in rainwater, it becomes slightly acidic, right? So the percentage of sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere has increased. When sulfur dioxide dissolves in water, it becomes very acidic. Okay? So rocks get weathered when they react with acidic rainwater. Okay, children. So not only limestones, now earlier we did the experiment with limestones. You all know that limestones undergo changes and marbles also form. So what will happen when marble structures, those marble statues and all, when they expose to acid rains, they will also get weathered. Okay, children. So sulfur dioxide is a type of gas that causes rock weathering. Okay, due to acid rains, but due to formation of acid rains. There's another type of gas, nitrogen oxide gases also. There are different forms of gases. Nitrogen oxide gases also dissolved in acid rain. Sometimes nitrogen oxide gases also present in the atmosphere. Some certain factories also release them. Okay. So due to this source of nitrogen oxide gases dissolved in rainwater, what happens, children? Basically, nitric acid is formed. This is also very acidic. So not only because of sulfur dioxide gas, because of nitrogen oxide gases also, acid rain is formed, right? We will write acid rains are formed by, acid rain is formed by sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides. Okay, when these gases dissolve in rainwater, rainwater becomes acidic. When this acid rain falls onto different rocks, especially the rocks with calcium, they react with these acids and they break down over a long period of time. Okay, children, so this is how acids can cause rock weathering. Okay. So now we are going to learn about biological rock weathering. So biological rock weathering is the rock weathering or breaking down of rocks take place due to biological factors. What are the biological factors? Plants, animals, and microorganisms. Okay, children, here rocks get weathered because of plant and animal activities, right? When a root of a tree enters inside an opening of a rock, it grows bigger and bigger and the rock can get cracked. Look at these pictures. Here you all can see this is a small plant. The root of that small plant goes through a small cavity or small crack present in rocks. Right? As the plant grows, what happens? Roots also get bigger, and because when the plant root grows, it creates a pressure on the wall of that tiny crack. Thereby the crack becomes bigger and bigger, and at one point you all can see. Now when you consider this root, it goes over and it can break the rock into pieces. Okay, so look at this picture, children. Here you all can see how this is a tree, part of this tree, how it has separated this rock into pieces. Okay, children? So this is a good example. Okay, children? Right. We'll move on to the next. We have another activity, right? Observing how a rock weathers naturally. So what do we have to do? Find a big rock near your house or school. Find a place where lichen can be seen. What are lichens, children? You must have seen lichens. Some of you, all of you must have seen lichens. Only some of you know that they are lichens, okay? What are lichens? Look at this picture. This is a lichen on a rock. You must have seen these type of white or light green color patches on rocks. Not only rocks, you must have seen them on tree trunks as well. Right? These type of patches. What are these patches? These patches are actually, even though they look lifeless, two types of organisms present in these patches. These are known as lichens, right? Two types of organisms present in these lichens. What are they, children? An algae and a fungi. Okay, an algae and a fungi living on these patches. Actually, while they are doing their activities, living on this place, what happens? They produce different types of chemical substances. Different acids are released. Right? Just imagine when these type of lichens present on rocks, what happens? Because of the acids secreted by these type of microorganisms, this rock breaks down with time. Okay? So what you have to do is, now this activity takes a long period of time. Okay? So find a big rock near your house or school. Find a place where lichen can be seen on it. So you have to find a big rock with lichens present on it. Okay? Check the texture of things near that lichen. Right? You can simply touch the surface of this area around the lichen. Okay? Check with your fingertips. Check whether they are rough or smooth. Okay? Check whether you can feel like sand particles, etc. So check the texture of things near that lichen once in 2 weeks for about 6 months. That is why I said this takes a long time. At least for about 6 months you have to observe this. Right? Rock weathering won't take place in a day or two. Right? So observe them with a hand lens. So when you observe them within this long period of time, for about 6 months, when you observe this, you will realize. Now when you touch the area with the fingertips, you will see that kind of sand particles you can feel. Right? Along with time, you will see that you can observe more and more sand particles. That is because, as I explained you all before, because of the function, because of the activities done by the algae and fungi living on these lichens, they secrete or they release different chemical substances, acidic substances. When these acids react with, when these chemical substances react with the rock particles, the minerals in the rock, they break down, and then what happens? Weathering of rock takes place. Right, children? Right, so this is how a lichen look like. Now we are going to watch a video about these lichens. I am going to show you all how lichens on rocks look like. Right, children. So you watched that video. So now you saw a lot of lichens present on surface of rocks. Okay? Right. We'll move on to the next. So with time, you can observe that the substances tested have small rock particles. Earlier, you could not observe, even though you could not observe them earlier, with time, for about 6 months, you have to observe this. You will be able to see that, right? Thus, you can conclude that the rock is weathered. Okay? Right. So, on big rocks, you can see white and light green patches, which are called lichens. Right? Lichens are a combination of algae and fungi. I explained this already. Algae and fungi. Right? The chemicals and acids produced by lichens are also reasons for rock weathering. Right, children? Okay. That's how lichens cause rock weathering. Okay? And then man uses different methods. So when you consider man is also coming under biological factor. All the plants, all the animals, all the microorganisms come in under biological factors, right? Man uses different methods to break rocks. So during building constructions, you all know that we have to use a lot of rocks, okay, during building construction. So where do we take these rocks? From large rocks, we break into small pieces, and that's how we obtain rocks. So the man using different methods, man break rocks, okay? This is another reason for biological rock weathering, right? This is another method of rock weathering. This is also coming under biological rock weathering, okay? Due to the thudding of hooves and horn fighting, rock weathering occurs, right? So animals, you must have seen how they rub their animals, and because of thudding of hooves of animals also, rock weathering takes place. Right, children? So here, under rock weathering, we learned that there are 3 different types of rock weathering. Okay, what are they? Physical weathering or mechanical weathering. So physical or mechanical weathering takes place because of heat, because of water or rainwater specifically, and also because of wind. Okay, and we learn the second method as chemical weathering. So chemical rock weathering takes place basically because of acid rains. Right? Biological rock weathering takes place because of plants, animals, and even because of microorganisms. Right, children? The soil on the Earth's crust is made of the physical, chemical, and biological weathering of rocks. So soil is formed only if rocks break down into pieces, which means this weathering of rocks is a very important process. Okay, children? So in the 15th lesson, we learn about the important factors about soil. So soil will form only if weathering of rocks take place. So now you know that rock weathering is a very important process that takes place in nature. Right, children? So we have completed this chapter as well. So in this chapter, we learn about rock weathering and what are the factors affecting rock weathering. Right, children? In the next chapter, we are going to learn about rock cycle.
To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.